This is one of the first courses in engineering, statics. The full name of this course is actually Engineering Mechanics Statics. So it's kind of a continuation of Physics 1, where it really concentrates on forces on objects that are not moving or not accelerating, more to the point. And so the forces are essentially all going to balance out and cancel out on each other, so you have an overall zero force on the object. And of course, as engineers, you can obviously guess what that might lead to. Things like bridges, things like cranes, other things that have a lot of forces on them from many different directions, but the whole idea is that the whole thing's not going to move, break, tip, rotate, or whatever. So, so this is quite an important course for many engineers. It's particularly required for mechanical engineers, civil engineers, and other engineers that are similar to those types of engineering. There are a lot of engineering fields that come off of mechanical engineering and civil engineering. So anyway, that's where we're at with this course. That's what it's all about. We will use no textbook in this course. Textbooks for this course tend to be in the $300 plus range, but for a long time now, I've just gone to an online learning system that is developed by Carnegie Mellon University. And we also have to use UNL's online exams, so I figured if we're going to use UNL's online exams, we might as well use just an online course. The other reason for this is that I rarely teach this course. I very rarely have students that are ready to take this course before they leave the college. So I didn't want to have to rack up all kinds of textbooks and everything else. So anyway, this class is currently scheduled as an independent study course. They have not given me the go-ahead to teach it as just a normally taught course at the college. So pretty much you're going to just kind of get started on things, and when you have questions, you're going to come to me, and maybe we can set up a session every once in a while where we help everybody if everybody's struggling with one particular thing. Hopefully you don't have to, you don't get stuck too often. This class has some pretty good tools associated with it, and I will also make available to you an online tutoring system if I'm not around when you need help. I will generally be around Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays to answer questions. Mondays and Fridays I will spend a lot of my time doing research at the UNL farm here across the way, but I will try to be available as much as possible on those days as well. I used to be available evenings, but with the college's new security system, I can't even access anything from my home at this point, so I won't be checking email from home for the foreseeable future. I can't think of anything else I need to tell you as we start this class. Both of you have taken MATLAB. This is a class where you could use MATLAB to your advantage if you chose to, but it's also one where you could use other computer programs to your advantage, and I will show you those as we go. The purpose of this class is not to break your head open doing intense calculations. This kind of class you might end up doing, a series of 7, 10, 12 linear equations, and you have to solve them all at once, solve them all simultaneously. That could take years. Well, maybe not years, but it could take weeks to do by hand. You could do it quicker using MATLAB, or you could do it even faster using other tools, which I will show you today. But anyway, the two major parts of this course are going to be in the Open Learning Initiative, which is this tool from Carnegie Mellon. It's oli.cmu.edu. There's no www in front of that. And you can see that you both have computers in front of you, so you might as well get onto this website, oli.cmu.edu, and you might as well sign up. So I go over here to start or access your course here. And you'll have a course key, so you go to course key students. And your course key is going to be ENGR for engineering, ENGR. Type it in right here. Doesn't have to be capitals or anything. And then it's going to be SP19. So ENGR SP19 is your course key. And if you type that in and click on it, it should take you to the course. Which should take you to somewhere. Let's see, yeah, right here. It should take you to, maybe the learn. No, that's not right. We'll take you to this place right here. So this is the page you should see when you sign in to this course. They might actually have you fill out a form with your email and your username and passwords and all that. So I'll give you some time. Just tell me when you're all signed in. So I can see that David's signed in now. And now Kyle signed in. All right, we're good. So go ahead to the syllabus of this course, and we can see the different units in the course. There are, I believe, 7 units in the course. And it starts off with concentrated forces and their effects, which is something that you've seen before. You've seen the idea of using forces to create free body diagrams and do all those kinds of things, and do equilibrium problems. And then the next one will be complex interactions between bodies, which you will have seen some of this, but not all of it. It will include things like torques, which in engineering, we don't call them torques, we call them moments. And if you have 2 torques acting on a body in opposite directions, we call them couples. And so you'll have couples and moments instead of torques. So if you remember torques from doing your physics class, that's extremely helpful. But then it moves on to things that are much more complex. Well, single body equilibrium is not terribly complex. You've been there before, but it will get more complex than you've done probably in your physics class. And then we move on to frames and machines, and then we move on to trusses, which are very specific applications of equilibrium problems. And then we do some problems with friction. We, of course, have studied friction a little bit in physics, but this goes a little bit beyond what we've studied in physics. And then we move to moments of inertia, which you've also seen in physics, hopefully. And then that's the last section of the course. So in here we have 2 different things. We have the if you look under each module, you have a quiz, and then you have the module itself. So if you click on the module itself, it'll take you to essentially a little chapter, you can think of it as. And it's got learning objectives up here at the top, the things that we're supposed to learn one after the other. And then it's just got these sections that you're going to go through, that you're going to move through. Some of these sections are just reading, where you just read some things and look at the things you should have learned from that section. Some of them have some imagery in them, some definitions in them, and then some diagrams in them for learning things. And then the important part of these learn by doing sections, where you're going to do these little activities to figure out if you've actually understood what they've told you so far. Within these, you can ask for a hint. You can sometimes move things around. In this one, you can't. Sometimes they're interactive. And then when you're done, you can reset the activity and do it again if you want to. And then they have these "Did I get this" activities, which are more real world-ish kind of activities. So they go from a very simple diagrammed activity to a more real world picture, photograph, situation, whatever. And then a summary at the end of these, and you move on using the arrows, or you can move back if you feel like you need to. I believe that in some of these cases they even have some animations and maybe videos. I can't remember, but they may have those or they may not. But even if they don't, it's a good idea to make use of outside materials if you need some additional understanding. So for example, we're in this section of contacting bodies, or we go to free body diagrams. Don't hesitate to go over to YouTube and search for free body diagrams. There are plenty of great videos on those, just a little refresher on them if you don't remember something, or if you've just never heard of something. Go over here and search it and see what you find out. So I'm going to go to free body diagram. I'm going to find literally hundreds of videos, maybe even thousands of videos on this subject. Some that I would definitely recommend are from the Khan Academy. So right here, Khan Academy is a great resource for those. I've been very pleased with those. And they have two different ones right here, right away. But there are other places where you can find them as well, obviously. Nerd Study, that's not one I've heard before. But you have Organic Chemistry Tutor, Dan Fullerton. You got all these different places where you can learn about these, and maybe you'll find one that you really like. Maybe it's Khan Academy, maybe it's not. But I would highly recommend that you make use of these, and maybe even use a watch list, or whatever they call it, video list. What do they call those things here? What do they call this? This is a playlist. Yeah, anyway, a playlist. Maybe you add it to a playlist for this class or for that unit so that you can go back to it. You have to sign into YouTube to have those. But definitely worth having resources that you can go back to remember things or to brush up on things. So Khan Academy also is a resource that I would just recommend in general. Khan Academy, I don't know how to spell things apparently. Khan Academy is a great online resource for learning many things. And if you go here to Khan Academy and just search for engineering, for example, they have many resources for science and engineering here. So they have electrical engineering. Apparently they don't have engineering mechanics. But you could always go to physics and get some of the things out of there for the forces and things like that we're using, torque and whatever. Of course, anything from your previous physics class might be useful in this class, so keep those things handy and close by while you're working on these things. Anyway, at the end of each one of these things, you'll have a quiz to do, so you get all the way through it. And go back to Unit 1, go back to your course here. There is this quiz here that you can open up and start taking. And this particular one is due the 29th. So I think that's next week sometime, or a week after. I don't know when that is. Sometime next week. But anyway, you can start taking this and press the button and see what it's all about. There are different questions. There's some flash things going on, so you have to run some of these things sometimes, allow them to run or whatever. But they're interactive things often. Sometimes they're multiple choice. Sometimes they're things that you have to calculate. And you'll go through and try to get this done. You can do multiple attempts of this. I can't even remember if there is a limit to the number of attempts. I think there isn't. But I think that if you do another attempt, you have to request it or something like that. And I have to reset your attempt or some such thing like that. They've changed the system since I used it last, so I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work until we actually start using it. But anyway, there are several parts to it, so you'll do the first part and you move on to the next part, and you'll get an overall grade and so on and so forth when you submit it. These quizzes will be worth about half of your grade, and goodness, why can't I need to move that? Anyway, these quizzes will be worth about half of your grade, so you want to do as well on them as you can, and take advantage of the multiple attempts on them as well. In addition to the work that you'll do on the online learning initiative site with Carnegie Mellon University, you will also be required, if this is required for the course, but it's also required if you want this to transfer to UNL or UNO, you'll be required to take these exams, and these exams you have to get above a certain percentage for them to count. I think it's 87 or 80% or 70% or something like that. But in this section, this website is emweb.unl.edu. The one warning about this website is it doesn't work very well with Macintosh. They wrote it in a Windows-specific environment, and they've not been able to update it so that it works across Mac platforms generally. However, it should work on your cell phone or your tablet pretty well. I think they've updated it to do that. You want to get to this website, emweb.unl.edu, and there's two sections that we will use for this class. Actually, there'll be 3 links that we'll use for this class. The first link is this mathematics needed for mechanics. So this is essentially a study area where you can go and learn all the things, review all the things that you need to know to do mechanics. And it goes everything from algebra all the way up into systems of linear equations, logarithms, determinants, even covers a little bit of calculus in some point here. Let's see, that's algebra. So if you go on up into calculus, it tells you a little bit about the calculus you need to know for this class. So it's a good idea to review all of that before you get started on anything so that you can brush up on any math that you know. But also you have to take a pre-test for this class for this class to transfer. And that pre-test is found in the education system. Before we get into the education system, I want you to look at this section. This engineering statics section has all kinds of essentially lecture notes on how to do different things in mechanics. And these things are useful when you're studying for the tests that you do in this system, because a lot of the stuff that you see here is what you'll see both on the Online Learning Initiative site and in the Engineering Statics exam section. So if we go back to the front page for the emweb.unl.edu, we've looked at the Mathematics Needed for Mechanics study site and the Engineering Statics study site. This isn't the most organized system, by the way, but these are study stuff. This education system button is now where we're going to go ahead and see where we take the test. So if you're a new user, so you're going to go ahead and create a new account down here. You'll push this button and create a new account. You'll fill out this information and you'll create your account, and then once you get into your account, you will be able to find my class. So go ahead and do that.
When it asks for a student ID number, is that our UNL ID or our...
Doesn't really matter. Just put a number in there or whatever. Put 00007. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I don't think you actually even have to fill it in. So are you guys into the system yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so now there should be a drop-down menu where you can choose a course, and you want to choose engineering statics. Actually, I think you have to choose your institution first. So institution is Mid Plains Community College. College is North Platte Community College. Department is going to be physics and engineering. And then your course will be engineering 2020.
Where's that tab at, that drop-down tab?
Does it have a place for institution?
Not that I can see.
Yeah, let me log in really quick so I can remember how this works.
Okay, I think I found it.
Did you?
Yeah, I found it.
I can never remember my password for this system. Let me check my password really quick. J. Daly. That's not it. There it is.
We added.
So you're in the class now? Good. So once you're in there, you want to go up to, so this is what your home screen looks like. You want to go to courses and choose your course or whatever. I don't know if you have to do this, but I have to do this. So I'm going to spring 2019, there we go. And you want to go to course home. That doesn't take you anywhere. So I'm going to go to syllabus. If you go to syllabus, you have this long list of things here, right? The very first thing is the mechanics readiness test. And if you click on that, you can start the mechanics readiness test where it gives you a bunch of problems to do. Multiple choice problems, different math kinds of problems. You can take this test as many times as you want, unproctored. Okay? But once you want to take it for credit, you have to take it proctored. So once you're done taking the test, you can grade the test and see how you did. And then it will tell you how you did. I got them all wrong because I didn't put anything in. So if I go back to my syllabus and I take the test again, hit the mechanics readiness test, then I hit the proctored one and start mechanics readiness test. Then it's going to the proctor is going to check your student ID, and they're going to put their proctor's username and their password in, and make sure that this ID matches the test. I will set up a proctor at the Success Center in McCook for you to do this. And I'll do the same thing for the students here in North Platte. So when you're ready to take that test, you think like you're prepared, you think you can pass that test, you go and take that test in the Success Center. And this will be the same for all of these tests. Each one of these tests, you can either take it unproctored or proctored. When you take it proctored, it will require somebody to check to make sure that you are who you are, and then they will sign you into the exam. So maybe you might have to change your ID number to your actual ID number so that they put your actual ID number in the test. I think that's probably how that works. But anyway, because this system has changed since I last used it too. It used to be they just had to check your ID and type in their own password. But apparently they have to check your ID now. So they have to type in your ID number now. But anyway, is you can do it as many times as you want unproctored, and then when you come in to take it proctored, they have to check it, and that grade will count for you. Now, if you want to take it again proctored, you still can. You just have to go in and take it proctored from from the proctor that has their own password. In these tests, you do have to get. I'm trying to remember what their. I think that they want you to get an 85% or something. Let me check really quick here. I think they're looking for everybody to get an 80. Or let's see, I don't know. Mechanics readiness test. I can't see from these numbers what they're looking to get. Yeah. Looks like probably 80% is what they're shooting for. Let's see, here we go. Average overall performance on the let's say, goodness, I can't remember. I'll have to email UNL and ask them what their cutoff score is. But they have some cutoff score that's like around, I want to say 75 or 70, or it might be 80%, but I don't think it's quite that high. But you have to hit that in order for it to count, and that starts off with the test with the math one. So the math one is actually the first one you need to do, and that's the one that I would recommend. I've given you 1 week to complete the first two assignments, I think, or maybe just the first assignment in the online learning initiative, the OLI the other website. So that you have extra time to come over here and try to complete the mechanics readiness test. After that, you'll want to make sure that you understand how these things are done before you take these tests on the UNL site. So you'll go over here to the Open Learning Initiative, and you'll learn some stuff about forces, and you'll learn some other things, and then you'll come over here and say, have I learned enough there to do this test? So you come here and do the equilibrium of a particle homework and the moment of a force. So obviously, the moment of a force, you want to wait until you've done moments over here in the online learning initiative before you go and take those tests. These don't match up exactly. They spend more time in the online learning initiative reviewing forces and force body diagrams and things like that. So they spend more time doing that on this one, which I like, than they do in the UNL one, which they jump almost immediately into moment of a force. It's their second assignment there. So I would work on the online learning first, except for the math readiness, the mechanics readiness test. That's the math test that you need to take to know if your math skills are up to snuff. But many of these have very similar names. For example, I think that there's one for distributed loads on each one. For example, so if you come down here to distributed loads, where is it? Here we have loadings, which is, so here we have centroids, center of gravity and centroids, and we have loadings. So they're similar in their names, equivalent loads. So it kind of works back and forth. You can kind of tell, especially when you get down here to like frames and machines and trusses. You know, you have method of joints, method of sections. Those are things that are definitely in both of these, I'm pretty sure. So method of joints and method of sections are both going to be in the trusses section. And then they also have a friction one, which is the same on both sides. So anyway, they've got some things that match up fairly well. Some of them you just kind of have to figure out as you're going along. But you'll spend your time just going back and forth, learning things in each system, and trying to get the best grades you can in each system. And then it'll be about half and half for each system for your grade. We will not do any final exams in this. Well, I can't actually. There might be a final exam. Let me remember. I can't remember if they actually do one in this class. Well, they actually do 3 exams here. They're not very long exams. They're pretty short. And they're also not comprehensive, I don't think. So I actually probably will not do, since they don't do comprehensive exams or final exam, I probably will not do exams. I will just treat the stuff that we do in the UNL system, on the UNL web education system. We'll treat these as more like exams, and we'll treat these more like homeworks. And that makes sense since these ones are over here are proctored anyway. You should know that in this web education system, it is randomized. So the things that you see when you're practicing may be slightly different from the things that you see when you're doing an actual proctored one. So the more that you practice, the better you are off. So that when you actually have a proctored one, you've seen as much as you possibly can. Seen as many options as you possibly can. So that is the kind of nuts and bolts of this class. Half your grade with the online learning initiative system, half of your grade with the Nebraska education system, and you're learning similar things in both, going about it a slightly different way in both. You want to start off with the mechanics readiness test here. Go ahead and get started on that this weekend and try to get the highest grade you can. And then just we'll be moving forward. I will check in with you periodically just to see how you're doing. I will check your grades online to make sure that you're continuing to do things. On the online learning system, on the online learning initiative, I have set some due dates to start off just to kind of get you going. I'm hoping that I don't have to necessarily make you have due dates. I'm hoping that you'll just kind of do 1 or 2 of these each week and get done in a reasonable amount of time. I think there's like 21 different quizzes here. So if you do 1 or 2 a week, you should be done in about a semester. As independent study students, you do have the option to extend this class for up to a year, I think. You probably don't want to do that, but if we're not finished exactly on time, it's not the end of the world. So don't, if you get really bogged down in another class, don't worry too much, but try not to spend too much time not doing anything. Because the more time that you spend not doing anything in this course, the more difficult it is to get back into it. Of course, that's just normal for most college courses anyway. So try to keep it on a weekly basis. Spend, a day or 2 each week doing something, trying to get through one quiz, trying to get through one of the UNL activities or whatever. And if you spend 1 or 2 days a week doing that, you'll be in pretty good shape by the end of the semester to finish up and complete it before you get too far past the semester. Do you have any questions for me?
Are the Lincoln tests timed?
They are not. I don't think so. Let's check that just to be sure. Open. Let's see here. So it looks like these have set dates on them right now. It's open. This one's open from January 26th to February 1st. Max repeat. Doesn't look like it has any timing on it, but it does have a due date, and I can change those due dates. I can change when they're open from and when they're open until. I'll leave them for now. Looks like the mechanics readiness test doesn't have any open or close dates on it. It looks like the first one doesn't have any open or close on it either. So it looks like those are just open all the time. But if we start running into problems where these open and close dates aren't working out for us and I need to change them, you just need to email me. The same thing in the other website. If the due dates are just not working exactly right out for you, just tell me and I can extend things, no problem. I like having due dates at the beginning just to kind of get people in the habit of working on the class every week. And I think the best thing to do is to just have a day and a time, twice a week, maybe 3 times a week at the most, but twice a week for sure is a good starting point, where you're just going to spend an hour or two working on this class, and you've got it set aside. You do it maybe in a classroom at the college or success center at the college. I would not do it at home. There's too many distracting things in the dorm room and other things like that. I would do it where there's other people studying, and studying is kind of the rule of thumb for that area. And you could do it together. That's totally fine. That would probably be much to your advantage. So if you do it, you've got 3 students there, right? 3 of you taking the class?
Yeah.
So that would be perfect. Just get together, and that way if you have any questions, you're all together and you can say, we all have this question, let's call Mr. Daly and get an answer, right? So that's what I would recommend for this class. If that doesn't work out for you, then on your own, set up a time that you're going to do this, and try to be very systematic about it. This class can be very challenging in that there's a lot of work to be done. I wouldn't say that it's the concepts are terribly challenging, because you've encountered many of them in physics, and it's all very visual. It's very easy to visualize these things because it's all mechanical. The difficult part is the mathematics and just kind of the busy work. There's lots of vectors in one problem. There's lots of there's lots of calculations to do in another problem. There's lots of things to do. And so as far as the challenging subject matter, I don't think the subject matter is terribly challenging, but the work can sometimes be so. Having said that, I want to introduce you to a useful friend. Now that you've completed physics and your lower level math classes, I want to introduce you to my friend Wolfram Alpha. How many of you know Wolfram Alpha? Nobody knows Wolfram Alpha? Okay. Wolfram Alpha is like Google for nerds and scientists. It is a computational engine. This is like MATLAB online. It doesn't quite do the same things as MATLAB does. It can do some of the same things MATLAB does, and it's not quite as powerful as MATLAB. But Wolfram Alpha can do many things that MATLAB cannot do very easily, and much more easily than MATLAB does them, much faster than it does them. For example, if I type in x plus y times 7 plus minus, let's do a minus 4z squared equals 56. And then I put in a little comma here, and I do an x minus y equals 4. And I put another comma in, I put y equals 6. You've seen this before in a math class. This is a system of multiple equations with multiple unknowns. Well, I can put this in here and hit enter, and Wolfram Alpha will look at that and say, well, I think I know what you're trying to do here. And it will actually compute solutions for you. How nice is that? This happens to have 2 complex solutions, and we love it, right? It also gives you alternate forms, and it will even sometimes give you graphical analysis. This is a complex system, so graphing it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if I change this y or z squared to just z, and notice in here that I put 4z and I didn't put the times in there. It even recognized that that's a multiplication in the end. So this is what it gives you as the result. So if I put this new version in without the z squared in there, and I change it, it actually gives me a real solution, right? And it'll actually also, let's see if I can powered by solution. I'm going to click on solution. Step-by-step solution. So here it actually shows me a step-by-step solution. What I did, it added equation 3 to equation 2. And if you want to see more of that, you can pay for it if you want it. But I'm not sure why it's not showing a graph. Well, it's probably not showing a graph of this because it's 3 dimensions. So let's change to 2 dimensions, take out the z part entirely. Y times 7. And let's do it again and see if it'll show us a graph. Oh, there are no solutions to this. That's nice. So let's do x. Because I have, let's take off one of these. Times 7. Let's see if that one has a solution. Hey, there's a solution for this, and then it actually shows us a graph of it. So it'll even do graphical analysis for you. This is something that you'll do a lot in this class where you have many, many equations and many, many unknowns. So this can be very useful for that. And I highly recommend you get used to using it. Anyway, so that's a useful tool for you that I hope that you'll make use of. I don't even have a problem with you using it during, well, I guess you can't use it during the exams for UNL because I think they only allow a calculator in their exams. But anyway, you can use it while you're doing all the other stuff. And that's all I've got for you today. So unless there are any more questions, do you have any more questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. Once you get started and you have grades in the Online Learning Initiative and grades in the UNL system, I'll try to figure out a way to conglomerate or combine your grades so that you can see them regular. I'll probably post them up in Blackboard or My Open Math or something so that you can see your grades as an actual estimation of how you're doing in the class. It shouldn't be hard to figure it out since it's half and half on each site, but I'll do that anyway once we've got some grades posted and we're moving along through the course. So I will post this video in case you need to review it later. I'll post it on YouTube and send you an email about it. Have a great weekend. Go ahead and get started on things and email me or call me if you have questions or concerns, and I'll be happy to help. We'll see you later.
See ya.